Hey, what's going on people? It's SGZ here from the SpartanGameZone, and in this video we'll be counting down the top 5 legendaries from the first Tiny Tina's Wonderlands DLC, if you can even call it that, but hey, that's another story. These are the best legendaries that Coiled Captors has to offer, with them all obtained either as drops within the Mirror of Mystery, from the Wheel of Fate, or even the Chaos Chamber Bath Bunnies, which is honestly where I got most of these. I'll be letting you know what each legendary item does and how you can get the most out of them. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you could drop a like, feel free to subscribe if you'd like to, or you could even follow me on Twitter, and let's crack into it. We open this countdown of the top 5 legendaries in the Coiled Captors Mirror of Mystery with the Slip and Stun, a unique amulet which you can take advantage of in a couple of different ways. It increases your slide speed by 50% and causes you to leave a lightning skid mark in your wake. The next swing of your sword that hits an enemy after sliding also deals 30% bonus lightning damage. It not only provides a unique gameplay loop where you slide, stab and repeat, but players can even use its added movement speed to increase their damage, provided they're spec'd correctly. What's great about it too is that all of its bonuses aren't locked and instead will scale with chaotic, volatile and primordial versions. That's a great thing and gives it much more potential. Overall, it's definitely an amulet you should have, if just for getting from place to place faster, but it does much more than that. Moving on to the Divergent, one of 2 new legendary weapons in the DLC. This one's a Ferrier shotgun that I believe can only come in the elements. The Divergent is a shotgun where every time you fire, you're literally rolling for damage, as it doesn't shoot regular bullets, but dice. They ricochet off world surfaces too, and to top it all off, every reload comes packed with the biggest die of them all. Unfortunately for how cool it looks, its reload isn't particularly strong, although it does scale with the amount of ammo remaining in the magazine. What saves it is its ability to penetrate enemies and the damage it deals when it explodes, but that is almost impossible to direct. What it lacks for damage though, it certainly makes up for in entertainment, and you'll struggle not to have fun with this gun. Next up is the Dynamo, an explosive spell that can only come in fire. The Dynamo is a good spell that deals high damage, even here in a basic gun focused build. It's a charged spell that charges almost instantly, and you can get it with multiple charges, which is always great. It fires a stick of dynamite which explodes into 4 more before falling to the ground and detonating again. Using it in close ranges, you're able to tee off with the first hit for that extra bit of damage, but depending on the enemy, the main barrage could miss, so I generally avoid doing that. What gives this spell great potential is its multiple sticks of dynamite, which can each proc abilities, lending to some heavy damage, particularly for Spellshot and Graveborn multi-classes. As far as legendary damage dealing spells go, it's definitely up there. Time now for the Tidebreaker, another great spell. This one can only come in Frost. The Tidebreaker is a double threat. Not only does it deal good damage, but it provides you with a damage inlet after you've cast it. Waving your magic wand will see a tidal wave roll down the arena. It penetrates enemies and is incredibly wet, causing your enemies to become soaked. Any enemies soaked take 50% more damage from shock and frost elements, but 50% less from fire. Using it then with frost and lightning weapons, you'll notice an instant boost in damage as the water covering your enemies amplifies your attacks. It does fall down against flying enemies, as unfortunately you're not able to summon a tsunami, but the wave is wide enough and travels long enough to cover a lot of grounded enemies at once. Its cooldown is low enough to have you rolling in the waves constantly, but better yet, you can even pick one up with multiple charges, and spell shots can equip 2 anyway. No longer are spells just for dealing damage and proccing enchantments, this one does both with an aftercast effect that will see you hitting high damage numbers long after the tide recedes. Before number 1 is revealed, let's cover some honourable mentions. First up, the Rain Bolt, a spell that isn't very deadly, but it sure is pretty. Holding down the cast button will see it fire multiple sparks of energy, which are followed by a rainbow trail, which when contacting an enemy, apply a random status effect to them. Due to its lack of damage, it's primarily a utility for applying status effects to enemies, which works great to debuff them with the Stabbermancers exploit their weakness skill. However, it could be better as the waving and homing nature of its projectiles often see you miss out on applying DOTs, which is disappointing to say the least. The next honourable mention I have for you is the Counterfeint, a unique shield that has to have the strangest ability in the game thus far. It's a shield that'll have your enemies distracted by disco. On depletion, a purple shadow figure will spawn at the spot you were last at and start dancing. Their moves are so awful that all enemies in the vicinity will try and make it stop, allowing you to deal damage freely without the fear of getting hurt. The Shadow's signature move lasts for 5 seconds and ends with a bang as it explodes, dealing lightning damage to any and all nearby enemies. It needs to fully recharge to happen again, and for how strange its effect is, it does do a good job at keeping you alive. The last honourable mentions I have for you are the 2 legendary rings added in the DLC, the Shark's Bane and Lethal Catch, which both have similar effects. The Lethal Catch has its effects buffed by 25% after killing an enemy, whereas the Shark's Bane buffs them by the same amount on mere critical hits. The buff durations for both last for 8 seconds, but that's not all. The Lethal Catch will have those effects double if the enemy killed was a land shark or crab, and the Shark's Bane grants a flat 50% damage bonus against land sharks regardless. The Shark's Bane is going to be especially useful when fighting old chums higher levels in the coming weeks, and that's why it's my pick out of these 2 rings. Number 1, we're here, but who could it be? It's the Cape of Tides, a shiny piece of armor that is insanely strong and easily one of the best the game has to offer. Its red text reads, "When it rains, it floods," and with it equipped, you will flood the arena with a downpouring of damage. Whenever you land a crit, there's a 25% chance for a water nova to trigger around the enemy, soaking them in "please don't freeze or zap me" juice. Again, whoever's soaked will take 50% more damage from frost and shock, but 50% less damage from fire. It says that effect will last 50% longer than normal, which is typically 8 seconds, but when I tested there was no difference on that front. Using this in tandem with frost and shock weapons will give you a direct avenue to increase damage. Anyone you shoot will soon become 50% weaker to your attacks, allowing you to take them down incredibly fast. Coupling it with a mobbing machine like the Livewire will have everyone around you soaking in your bullets. Regardless of weapons, it's ridiculously easy to proc and provides one of the biggest damage boosts in the game. So that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned of the top 5 legendaries from DLC 1, Coiled Captors. If you did, consider dropping a like or subscribing, and I'll catch you in the next one.